Herzog explores how humans think and behave towards and engage in relationships with more than only human animals in a morally complicated world. He asks, why is it so hard to think straight about animals? His inquiry investigates, as he puts it, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and the ones we eat. Drawing from this, we ask, why is it so hard to think about the ones we hook? Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name's Sarah Oxley-Heaney.
And I am Cristina Zenato.
We're collaborating as a PhD candidate and shark listener practitioner, academically exploring the unconventional relationships Cristina and a particular group of sharks co-share, a practice Cristina calls shark listening.
Before we continue, we add another simple question. What does it take for a shark's pain to count?
Sharks appear only once in Herzog's book, when he poses a comparative risk question. Are you more likely to die from a shark attack or being hit by a part falling from an aeroplane? Herzog concedes that choosing sharks would be incorrect, but this framing still portrays sharks negatively. Trigger warning, the next image shows a dog with a fishing hook embedded in his or her nose. Please look away now if you don't want to see.
The dog in this photo comes from a BBC report. Having sniffed a discarded fishing hook from under a tree, the dog was reported as having yelped and later needed surgery under anesthesia to remove the hook. The article makes the pain, discomfort, and urgency of care unmistakable. You can look now. For many of us, seeing a dog with a hook embedded in their body prompts an immediate reaction. We can imagine the pain the dog is feeling.
A similar case in a Facebook group post also underscores this point. Vets advise how painful the embedded hook is for the dog in question, the infection risk, and how to prevent further trauma and damage from the barbed hook.
Trigger warning. The next image shows one of my Caribbean reef sharks with a hook embedded in their mouth. Look away now if you do not wish to see this short clip. You can look now. Did you react differently to each image? Look at both images. None, one.
A study on how veterinary students perceive pain across animal species found a strong mammal-privileged bias. Below mammals, fish were rated as being able to experience less pain than budgerigars, but more pain than earthworms. Although the picture is nuanced, there are some species we seemingly don't believe experience much pain. When sharks carry hooks, their pain often disappears into stereotypes and statistics. We may hear apex predator, fishing, or bycatch, not somebody hurting. Nearly 400 years ago, Descartes encouraged Western society to dismiss the pain dogs experienced during his vivisection experiments. As Francione notes, Descartes dismissed their reaction as no different from the sound of a machine that is functioning improperly. A crying dog, Descartes maintained, is no different from a whining gear that needs oil. And here we are, almost 400 years later, still entangled in Descartes' legacy of corporeal violence and bodily disregard. Contemporary debate often remains mechanistic and reductionist for some species and individuals. Until as recently as 2002, only 23 years ago, fish were thought incapable of feeling pain. Lynn Sneddon's 2002 study changed that, proving that fish do indeed have pain receptors in their brains. It was quite a paradigm-shifting event, she says. Up until then, there was no pain in fish. The common belief was that the biology of a fish was far too simple to process pain. Indeed, fish brains don't seem to have an equivalent structure to the part of the human brain capable of processing pain. The study involved the pinching and pricking of fish to activate the same nerve types that in humans detect painful stimuli in order to show that fish have the necessary anatomical hardware. We want to situate these thoughts with this conference challenge. Can we generate new ways of thinking about fish pain, shark pain? Do we need to pinch fish to believe they feel pain? The conference organisers' words resonate with us. Explore kindness, empathy, sympathetic imagination, shared embodiment and corporeal compassion as ways to connect with and understand other living beings. Drawing from this, we turn to corporal compassion, Acampora's concept that ethics live in contact, in our bodies, not only in proof. As Merleau-Ponty wrote, the body is our general medium for having a world. And I am not in front of my body, I am in my body, or rather, I am my body. Acampora's corporal compassion means experiencing empathy and compassion not through a set of biologically fixed and homogeneous species-specific rules, but through ethical principles Acampora calls moral somatology. The idea that our bodies are not just muscles and nerves, but through them is how we experience, interact with, and engage with the world. Much of bodily life precedes thinking. For example, our postures, habits, and our actions, deeply rooted in muscle memory. Our situatedness, such as climate, environment, and umwelt, shape how our bodies feel and act. Furthermore, through incorporeality, we meet others through our bodies, such as eye contact, touch, flinches, rhythms. Bodies read other bodies, and so, says Acampora, this grounds moral attention in our body's vulnerability and responsiveness, not just abstract rules. In this way, cross-species understanding becomes possible. As if bodies are our first way of knowing, then the gestures, tensions, and invitations of more than only human animals carry bodily meaning, not mere behaviour. This, Acampora argues, demands a trans-species, or as he terms it, a trans-specific morality, that is, an ethics beyond human-only consideration. Thus, he proposes a nexus he terms symphysis, a felt bodily bond of connection cultivated through a somaesthetic listening of bodily sensations such as touch, pressure, temperature, vibration, and pain. This practice, he says, mediates an interspecies vulnerability and togetherness, where an awareness of vulnerability can evoke a corporeal plea against violence, as if the other's body were saying, "Do not injure me." And this, he says, brings about a felt obligation towards protective conduct. Awareness of togetherness, in turn, evokes attitudes of care and respect. It's learning how to listen from one body to another, including the sharks. This, I propose, is what Christina and the sharks practice in shark listening. From here, we adopt Acampora's corporal compassion, ethics that arise through the body, and translate it into a wider corporeal frame for this talk, where we now reference corporeal compassion through shark listening.
When I dive on Shark Junction with my regular shark kin, they and new shark visitors are frequently present with hooks embedded in their bodies. My shark listening approach begins by recognizing their pain and discomfort. Hooks can sometimes prevent them from eating. They create infections and leave permanent damage to their bodies.
Pain is defined as a subjective experience, which cannot be directly observed by those who are not experiencing it. However, Shapiro describes kinesthetic empathy as an empathetic positioning, where one's body reacts in tune with another, yielding a sensory feeling, and a knowing what another might be thinking or feeling. He illustrates this with a wince, if, as he puts it, the door catches one's own or the dog's foot.
But unlike dogs, sharks don't cry out or furrow brows when we meet them, and their underwater, out-of-sight lives makes their vulnerability easy to miss. Over the years of mutual listening, shark individuals and myself have developed an attunement to each other's movements.
This attunement enables kinesthetic empathy through a corporal compassion that makes hook removal possible. This corporeal compassion allows a becoming, a transformation that unfolds when Sharks and Christina meet in shared vulnerability, where both parties navigate trust and resistance and co-create the conditions for care so that pain and vulnerability become the very mediums through which compassion can flow. Attempting to formulate Acampora's corporeal compassion and map it onto shark listening, we offer 6 stages. Stage 1 begins with the somaesthetic appreciation of vulnerability. That is, a bodily sensory awareness of another's susceptibility to harm.
I see my shark, a hook lodged deep, flesh torn, her swim agitated. I read their pain signals in her movements and assess my approach. I don't need mechanical scientific proof of her pain. I can see her pain. She shows me through the way she moves. She signals her intention by how she holds her distance from me. And the interaction begins. If I recognize a vulnerability as like mine, that alone for me is sufficient to establish compassionate concern. We both start listening. There is a mutual awareness and a mutual vulnerability. For me, vulnerability means the possibility of unintentional harm due to her size and speed. For her, it includes her pain and discomfort from me removing the embedded hook.
Christina recognises the shark as an agent who has their own evaluative processes. Christina's experience means she recognises and respects the shark's communicative cues. The shark assesses Christina's active body through her own sensory modes. Both are already active participants.
A tube containing some dead fish is placed next to me. These fish will be offered to the shark as an invitation to enter my space.
A side note here, we acknowledge the tragic trade-off here by valuing a shark's life over another fish's life, and we'll discuss this dilemma in the future. Stage 2 involves what Acampora terms intersomatic intimacy or togetherness, in which there's an intertwining of senses of embodiment which are shared and contain the potential of a dynamic relation. Here Acampora frames symphysis as a mediating vulnerability and togetherness which elicits care, respect and protection.
The way I interact with the shark is I orient myself, leaving space and inviting the shark to enter instead of blocking them. The tube functions as a cue for the regular sharks as they're already attained to the movements that I'm doing and initiate an invitation to enter my space.
Both bodies adjust and co-orientate towards an extended co-presence. Christina interprets the shark's positioning through multisensory cues, movement, pace and body orientation, acknowledging that this is the shark's own communicative act. Attunement becomes mutual. Stage 3 invites a stronger reciprocity that culminates in respect.
I wait. The shark makes small circles, then smaller, maybe closer circles. And eventually on one, her passes offers a stillness beside me. A constant almost like a pause into her movement.
This consent-like pause is the first sign that they are both in a place of mutual respect, a compassionate becoming that sets up the conditions for attempting and allowing hook removal. Both bodies hold hesitation and space as part of the ongoing negotiation. Mutual respect emerges from restraint on both sides. Trust emerges between both as each modulates bodily presence in relation to the other.
When we consider each other's vulnerability as our own, compassion takes on the aspect of respect.
Stage 4 brings a situated bodily engagement where symphysis is mapped onto the medium of flesh.
I offer the fish and I invite the shark to come in. The shark changes orientation, shows me wherever she will settle in my lap or continue slow passes. I read these different cues as bodily communication shaped by discomfort. As the shark presents her injury to me, I recognize this as her own mode of expressing need. The invitation in the shark's pause and her adjustment signal whether she gives me consent to approach her body and the hook with my hands.
Both the shark and Christina adjust. The shark in question modulates the approach despite discomfort, and pain becomes part of the mutual calibration, with each body accommodating the other's thresholds. The shark slows and accepts the space given by Christina. The shark grants access despite vulnerability, and Christina responds to the pause. Pain is the communicative force of the encounter.
When the shark allows me to access her injury, I accept the invitation.
Christina's hands become listening devices. A palm traces across the skin, mapping tension. Any resistance is calibrated, and if necessary, each eases. This is corporeal compassion, not a feeling about the shark, but a regulated duet with the shark.
So I have to decide the angle, the pressure, the direction, pushing, pulling in order to remove the hook. I want to try to cause the less trauma possible because that's best for the sharks. If I'm not successful the first time, we both try again.
If the shark offers resistance, this reveals the shark's agency, as she or he decides how or whether to engage in the discomfort or pain of hook removal. Avoidant gestures are read as valid expressions of preference shaped by pain.
When I go for a hook, the first contact is through eyesight. The shark can see my eyes zeroing into her hook, and she's not ready. She will just move away, arm of arm reach. Afterwards, if she comes in close enough for me to touch her on the head and touch the hook, that's when I start. And I violate the technique based on the feel that I have physically on the hook. Her reaction tells me, yes, continue. So she may pause, put her tail in the sand, stay a little bit, or may tell me, no, it's still too painful. And that's when she swims away and stays away for several minutes before she comes back again.
In mutual vulnerability, the hook is removed, the shark allows the removal and permits relief, and Christina enacts it. Pain relief is both given and received and co-produced. Compassion flows as the pain eases. Trust is reciprocated, and the compassion circulates as an emergent property of their embodied meeting. Stage 5 makes where corporeal compassion in shark listening is not a single act, but an ongoing practice. What Acampora casts as a corporeal compassionate ethos takes the form of an ongoing practice of a cultivation of work owed. Within shark listening, this is shown in multiple becomings, multiple listenings, repeated episodes of hook removal, and co-produced pain relief.
I remove hooks from sharks that are always present on the site. And sometimes I've removed dozens of hooks from the same individuals, like crook or like natural. So I have hooks that I remove multiple times from the same sharks. And I am approaching almost 400 hooks at this stage. I also have hooks that I've removed for sharks that came in once with a hook and then never came in again until they had another hook.
Hence, the shared negotiation of pain from resistance to relief is remembered as a corporeal compassionate becoming, in which both Shark and Christina are transformed. Trust is reciprocated and compassion flows bi-directionally. Each gives something in response to the other's vulnerability. Through continuing meetings and recognition of one another and others, in the flesh and blood being in a world, shark listening becomes this cultivation of work owed in the shared setting of Shark Junction's sublittoral zone, yielding trans-Pacific or trans-species intersomacity, a durable yet fragile cross-species togetherness practiced over time. Stage 6 frames shark listening as the embodiment of corporeal compassion that incorporates sharks into a transhuman form of morality, where sharks are valued as significant ethical beings with living existences rather than abstract, human-constructed states of mind. In line with Acampora's move to go beyond deconstructing anthropocentrism, this stage urges affirmative or proactive cultivation of compassionate contact with actual, more than only human animals. The shark listening is not simply observing or saving, but a living practice of corporeal compassionate becoming that offers, as Acampora suggests, post-anthropocentric action in an anthropocentric world.
I think the hardest part for me about sharks, hooks, and their removal is the dismissal that I receive from the media, from the people, from the fishers, from people that actually do not witness the pain and discomfort that I witness. The belittling, the name calling, the basically reverting to say, oh, sharks are mindless killing machines. And it hurts me. It hurts as much to me as if someone will belittle and diminish my love for my dog, my love for the pain that they're going through. So what bothers me the most is if somebody posts about their dog being injured, there is a long list of, I'm so sorry, this is so terrible. But when it's about a shark, it's all about, well, the sharks don't feel pain. What you're doing is stupid, which is one of the names of being called. What you're doing is pointless. The hooks will rust. And that is as hurtful as if they put those comments underneath the needs of my loving dogs. So now we return full circle to our initial question. Do you think corporal compassion practiced through shark listening helps sharks pay into count? Is it now less hard to think straight about the ones we hook?
Thank you for listening today and for the opportunity to present. You can contact us through my website, www.kissingsharks.com,
or my website, www.cristinazzenato.com.